Yeah. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Do I sound good?
Eh, a little bit like a robot, but maybe not bad if you keep talking.
How's that? How's that?
It sounds like you're
Better?
underwater a little bit.
Bit crunchy.
Crunchy? Hang on, let me try something. Okay, how about that?
Better.
Like much better? Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being my testing audience. Okay, ready to go? Yeah.
I'm ready.
Awesome. Welcome to the first session in our Masterclass series. The purpose of these sessions is to give you baseline and sometimes detailed information on the stuff that we do, that we offer to our clients, and what it means to do that, right? How do you go about doing it? So we're going to start off with IT strategic planning, and talk about what that means, how you deliver those services, what kind of skills do we need to have, pitfalls in the process of delivering those services, and what to look out for. And then I'll give you some success examples on how we've done it before. I'm going to share my screen. You guys see my screen?
We see
Yeah.
in a
Yes.
a PowerPoint.
Seeing it, not seeing me. Okay, how's that?
Good.
Okay, so let's talk about why we win these projects, what we're expected to do and deliver, and how do we use these projects to grow revenue, right? A lot of times IT strategic plans become the foundational project based on which we have gained a lot more business. A great example was our first ever client, Blount County, Tennessee, was an IT strategic planning client that led to 4 or 5 years of sustained work, ERP, technology modernization. It led to a lot of things that has led us to this point. So we need to be good at these projects, and because a lot of work comes out of these engagements. So let's start with what an ITSP is. And anyone has questions, just raise your hand. Someone tell me that someone has a question, and we'll just take it. So what is an ITSP? It's basically developing a comprehensive roadmap for our clients' technology modernization. So because our clients are all cities, counties, states, quasi-government agencies, they're traditionally behind in technology, right? They're not at the cutting edge. They're not taking advantage of the greatest technologies out there. And sometimes it's by design because that has given them the ability to leapfrog bad technology, that has given the ability to not take any risks in terms of unproven technologies. So when they bring us in, they want us to assess, A, where do they stand in terms of their operations versus where private industry is, or other uh, agencies that are more modernized, where do they stand, where the gaps are in terms of their technology environment and investments and people and organization, and how do they best spend their limited public dollars to bring this agency up to speed and modernize across the board. So at the end of the day, we are responsible for giving them a true assessment of where they stand and a comprehensive methodology or a roadmap to the future. And when I say future, these days it's 3 to 5 years, right? Technology changes really quickly. We can be doing 10-year strategic plans like we used to when I started in this business. So that's what the definition of a technology strategic plan is. There's other words to describe this. Some call it digital transformation strategy, some call it technology strategic plan. There's various other ways of describing what they're asking for. And keep in mind, more often than not, these projects come out of the executive's office. What that means is the city manager, the mayor, the city council or county commission, or somebody high up says, I don't really like where we're headed. I don't understand what questions to ask. My IT folks, they tell me everything is okay, but we need a comprehensive assessment and a strategy. Most IT people don't like this because that means that we're going to be in their, hen house looking under the hood, trying to see what's wrong, what's right, and they don't appreciate that because a lot of times IT directors, CIOs are really good at the technical elements. What they're not good at is the management of it all. They're not good at communications. They're not good at selling to their management, their executives, and their council why they need a certain new thing. So when we go into ITSP clients or any clients, even ERP clients, you see that your CFOs or city managers will say, yeah, we didn't know that they needed these things. Thank you for telling us. You talk to IT and they'll say, well, we've been asking for a new server for the last 10 years, but they always tell us no because they don't have funding. The truth is somewhere in the middle, right? It's in translation of what IT is talking about into what executives understand, and it's not always translated correctly. So that's also one of the big purposes why executives in a city, county, government bring us in to help them understand what IT is trying to tell them, right? So that is the gist of an IT strategic plan. It's a living blueprint, right? It's never done because it is consistently evolving. You need to give the clients a mechanism by which to measure where they stand, where they're going, and if they're succeeding in that roadmap. So it's a living blueprint, and the key components are people, process, technology. You've heard this one before. This is not new, and technology is the last element. Now, think hard about what that means. How can an IT strategic plan have technology as the last component? Because our clients do not expect us to be experts at technology. Yes, from a user perspective, from a strategy perspective, but nobody expects us to know exactly how a server should be set up or how switches should be managed. That is tactical management of the tech stack. IT strategic planning is a layer above that. How are your people using your technologies? Do they have the right tools? Are your people capable of doing this? Is your organization set up in a way that you can take advantage of modern technologies? So why do these clients undertake ITSP projects? We've touched on a few of the reasons. Number one tends to be aging infrastructure, right? Servers are failing. They're using older ERP technologies. Maybe some have been built in-house. No one knows how to keep up with them, and it's a giant ball of yarn that most people don't know how to untangle. And most IT folks go at it from, hey, I need to replace these servers. I need to buy new computers. I need to lay out new cable. And the city executives are sitting back saying, yeah, I get it, but what does that mean in the greater scheme of things? What are you going to come and ask me for in 2 months that I'm going to be surprised by? So aging infrastructures and the risk of legacy systems failing is a huge reason why these are undertaken. Citizen demands for citizens digital services. This has been accelerated after COVID. People don't want to go into city halls or county courts to get a form to fill out and then ship it in by mail. They want digital services. We all run our lives on our cell phones. Why can't we do the same thing with city services, right? There's a huge demand and a growing demand and a dissatisfaction for um, where things stand today in most city governments, right? My speech at ICMA a couple of weeks ago revolved around this topic because when you don't give citizens the tools that they need to avail of city services that they're paying taxes for, it erodes trust. So second reason, or I mean, these are not ranked in any particular order, but citizen demands for digital services is a huge one. Aligning IT spending with mission and budget realities. When you look at most IT budgets, and they're all available online on city websites, you'll see that they don't necessarily align with the vision and mission of the city. What do I mean by that? You go to any fast-growing city, even Knoxville, you'll have some council agendas, you'll have council strategies. They're trying to bring in more industry, bring in more people, give them the services that they need. And IT budgets are talking about we need more computers. We need to run fiber between this, that, and the other. And for council members and city executives, those two things don't connect, right? How do we sell this big project to council when I can't understand what you're trying to spend money on, right? The next is securing funding. Again, very related. How do you sell this to councils? Because most councils, again, don't understand why we are not modernized. They don't understand that you have 20 years of legacy in your data center that needs to be overhauled for you to take advantage of things like AI or even citizen-facing chatbots and services that will give your citizens the ability to do business with your organization online. Cybersecurity and compliance, right? This doesn't come up often as a trigger for why these projects are undertaken, unless there's been an incident, some auditor told them you're at risk, and compliance pressures for making sure that they're not at risk of being hacked or held for ransom. And staffing gaps and workforce challenges. Any IT organization you go to will tell you they're understaffed, which is not always the case, right? You have staff that doesn't need to be doing the work they're doing. For some clients, it's things like they do web design in-house. They have webmasters, they have software developers, they have all of these legacy positions that still exist when they should be going to the cloud, when they should be doing web design somewhere else. Those are just examples, but how many staff do you need in IT versus how many we already have is a huge question that comes up every time you do an IT strategic plan. And regardless of what the best practice tells you, there isn't one real benchmark to apply to every organization because they are all different, right? Every city, even if it's a similar size organization, they offer different services that are in different parts of the country. So the mix of staffing is different for different organizations. So that's another reason. And then data-driven decision making. The more forward-thinking city managers, mayors, CFOs want data to be able to make decisions. And that's not available to them readily. And this is directly related to our work with ERP systems, right? How do these people get their reports? If it's a simple run-of-the-mill report, yeah, they're getting it on a daily, weekly basis. But if they want something specific, they always have to go talk to IT, and IT will tell them it's going to take me 6 months to figure out how to create this report, and it doesn't get done. So there's a lot of frustration about, yeah, we seem to have the right systems because we're spending so much money on IT, but why can't I get the report I need or the dashboard that I've been asking for right away? So why clients undertake IT strategic plans, especially if it's coming out from the executive offices, are these reasons. They're thinking ahead. They're thinking about how do we need to deliver services to our internal staff, to our citizens, and a lack of understanding of where we're spending money on technology. So why do we win ITSP projects, right? Number one, we've got a long track record of doing this. Sarah, question.
Sorry to interrupt you before you get
Oh,
started
okay.
here. Are there like any common events or series of events that lead a county or a city or a local government to say, okay, we need to take a look at this. Like we've kind of hit our breaking point. I know you mentioned briefly, like perhaps an auditor or someone saying they're at risk from a cybersecurity standpoint, but curious about some of the other factors.
Cyber risks, obviously, number one. Two, something else failed, and they're in the newspapers, right? ERP project fails, they're in the newspapers. And keep in mind, anything to do with technology is called IT, right? Doesn't matter if it's core IT or if it's a software system. New leadership always triggers something like this. New mayor comes in, it gets elected, new city manager, new CFO, new CIO. These are the triggers that cause people to think about the strategy. And general comment in government, they're not going to take on a strategic project unless somebody is making them do it, like council, or there's been an incident that is making them be reactive about this. And a lot of times it's sort of concealed within a strategic project, but the reality of it is, yeah, your data was hacked, and you don't want to be in the newspaper saying we're in trouble. But that's rare. More often than not, someone else is making these people do this project. Very rarely does a city manager or a mayor think about strategy, what's next. And there's very few people, right? Our client in Piqua, Ohio, for example, every time Paul goes to a new city, the first thing he'll do is an ITSP because he wants to know what's going on. He wants third-party eyes on it, and he wants a real assessment. Hope that answered your question, sir.
It did. Thank you.
Thanks. All right. So what makes us unique? Because we're not an IT company, right? We're a consulting company that does IT work or IT adjacent work. So what makes us different, right? When we have competitors going after projects like this, they're leading with, hey, we know Cisco, we know Dell stacks, and we know blah, blah, blah. We know how to network. And that may land well with the CIOs, but the decision makers and the people to please on projects like this are the executives, the chief financial officers, the CHROs that don't care about the black box. They don't care about which lights are turning green and which ones are turning blue in the data center. They want their processes to work. So what they want is vendor neutral people that understand the landscape. That's who we are, right? We don't have any software or hardware alliances. We don't have any affiliations. We don't resell product. That gives us some trust. Our exclusive public sector focus. We understand the business of government deeply, right? Not just how purchasing works, but we know budgeting cycles. We know how each department works and what their constraints are. Right size for small to medium governments, yeah, but we can scale up and down. We've done work with very large organizations and small. Our framework is people first and vision first, right? The technology needs to fit within what the organization is trying to achieve in the next 3 to 5 years. So back to your question, Sarah, when a new mayor comes in, they've made promises to the public. They've ran on a certain platform. And when they come in, they're like, I don't think I can get there because this sucks. We don't have the tools. We don't have the software. We don't have the right leadership. That's when we get brought in to sort of align everything with what the vision is, right? And a lot of times the tech is the last thing. We spend a lot of time focusing on what the future state needs to look like, starting from the mayor's vision all the way down to each system. We've got a proven track record. I've lost track of how many ITSPs we've done in the last 10 years, plus the ones that I've done before we started Avero, but some good ones out there. And then we have a long-term partnership model, not one and done, right? We want this to be a long-term engagement through follow-ons or not, right? Some of our best relationships have been around for a long, long time, even though they may not be, paying clients. But these are the projects that allow you to get a complete deep dive into the organization, understand exactly what's going on, where their major problems are, and work follows based on that. Brian.
Yes, do we tend to position these when we win them as bring us on for the assessment and these are the types of work we're going to be able to do going forward beyond that? Do we tend to do the assessment and then from there come the recommendations? How do we frame that?
Yeah, I mean, if we've done a good job selling it up front, yes, we must let them know that, yeah, this is one project you're bringing us on for, but we can stay with you for as long as you want us to, need us to. And along the way, right, you don't wait till you present the report to say, hey, these are the follow-ons we want to do for you. As a good consultant, you're constantly letting them know we can help you with these projects. And a lot of times, the biggest ones coming out of an IT strategic plan is an ERP replacement project. We're missing the planes, Isaac. Anyway,
Yeah, I know. They said they're coming around twice, so maybe I'll hope for that.
there's F-35s flying around. Okay, cool. Did that answer your question, Brian?
Yeah, it did.
All right. So why do we sometimes lose? And this applies, I think, to every project that we lose. Lowest bidder procurement processes where they're just trying to go with the cheapest, which tells you that they haven't really thought about this, or that they have somebody in mind and the RFP is just a formality. When the leadership is not brought into it. So I just talked about how these are typically leadership projects, but sometimes the leadership will tell their IT directors, hey, let's do an IT strategic plan. You run it, you choose your vendor, and the purpose of these projects is not communicated. So when IT is running it, they're looking for their agenda. And you should ask David Buchan how not Foster City, Fair Oaks has gone, because that is a great example of leadership not being bought in, or leadership had a completely different idea of what this project should be. And IT is running it with his own agenda. And we end up in a situation where at the end of the project, city manager comes in and says, not what I was looking for. Let's do it again. So when leadership's not bought in, and IT directors are choosing the vendor to do this work, they'll choose the highly technical folks that are deep into networking, they're deep into servers and virtualization. Change resistant culture, right? You'll do ITSP demos or presentations like this, and people just don't buy it. They're like, we just need new computers. We just need some new servers. Why are you talking about vision? Why are you talking about strategy? Sometimes clients expect deep technical audits, not strategic planning. That is not what we do. We did that for a period of time, but we don't anymore. And if that's what they're looking for, it's not a good fit, right? There's a very big difference between strategic planning and technical audits or IT audits, and making sure that the client and us are on the same page in terms of what they're expecting from this is critically important. So that leads me to the question that I've gotten from several people. How technical do our staff need to be? Yeah, Clay.
This kind of relates to this slide, actually. I know that a little bit of an audit is sort of necessary to truly get to the scope of the strategic plan. So how far do we need to go as far as an audit? I know we probably don't need to know exactly every single computer in the county or every piece of software that they use, but maybe we kind of do. What are your thoughts about that?
And we do that, right? Part of discovery is either getting them to give you their inventory. Everyone has some kind of product they use for scanning. We have sometimes brought in our own staff or subcontractors, and we've used tools like PDQ to run scans and get an accurate inventory of what they currently have. But then it becomes tricky if you try getting too technical beyond that. What you're trying to get to is, what is your general stack? What are you running? How old is it? Have you had like a refresh program that's allowed you to stay current? Are you even current with your licenses? At that basic level, we can do that in-house. And yeah, so to answer your question, Clay, we've done several things like that before. So how technical do we need to be? As a project team, I don't think we need to have software or hardware engineering expertise. That is not what the perfect or the good ITSP client is looking for, right? They're looking for strategic guidance on where the organization needs to go and how to apply technology to it. So you need skills that you have today that you use in ERP projects: facilitation, communication, analysis, digging into data, research, And I think the biggest one is the ability to translate IT speak to the executives. Because a lot of times what we find is they're speaking the same language. IT is asking for something that the city manager has been asking for. They just can't communicate the fact that this piece of hardware or this suite of software is going to lead to that outcome for the leadership. So what's not required is deep systems engineering experience. We need to focus on strategy, not deep hardware audits. And again, a good recent example is Fair Oaks, where they pushed back and said, hey, we expected a hardware audit. We expect you to tell us what every piece of hardware what replacement schedules each one should have. And our pushback was, no, we can give you best practices on what generally a switch should have for life cycle, things like that. Yeah, Brian.
What about cybersecurity? Do we find that we need more technical depth there?
Uh, Not necessarily that, but what we do is a NIST audit, which is a 22-point framework, which is out there. It's not proprietary, but it is a CISA approved framework, which essentially, if you look at it, it's a 22-point management assessment of the technology, right? So it's less about do you have the right ports open or the right ports closed, and it's not a pen test type deep dive, but it is you have disaster recovery plan, you have an incident response plan, who's responsible for what. It's a checklist that the city managers can then take and keep their IT folks accountable to. So deep cybersecurity experience, no. And again, we've done it before, where when we used to have a deep technical arm, we would let those people in to do that kind of work, but that led to other cans of worms that were not necessarily strategic, right? So um, I wouldn't say we need deep cybersec experience. We can bring it in if the client's specifically asking for. We've got relationships where we can bring someone in for a quick pen test or something like that, and they can go away. But keeping it strategic is key. So what are the major elements? And this might look like an ERP needs assessment because it's not that different. Kickoff, stakeholder mapping, cross-functional organization discovery interviews. And the beauty of an ITSP is it's very broad. You're not, like when you're talking to a CFO, you're not just limited to asking about the system. You can talk about all the things. A lot of times CFOs control the IT budget and the organization. CHRO, same thing. So my point about how these projects can lead to a lot more work, discovery is where the magic is, right? Because you're getting into the organization, they're paying you to understand the organization at a very deep level, because it is a strategic plan. Then the outcomes of that are gap analysis, SWOT analysis, your roadmaps, assessments of people, process, technologies. You'll do executive visioning workshops where really it's about showing them the blue sky, right? These people they're not from IT. And you're talking about your chiefs, right? The mayor, city manager, CFO, CHRO. All they want to do is do work better. They want to do work more automatically. They want to give their people the best tools. They want to give the citizens the transparency that they need. So what does that future look like? And then our job is to translate that back into what you have versus what you don't, and how the roadmap and the expenditures we are recommending you make get you to that point. So three-phase methodology, discovery, analysis, strategy, right? At the end of which you're giving the client a nice report. But keep in mind, the report is an afterthought. It is the deliverable for the engagement you've had. So a typical ITSP will be, I don't know, 4 to 6 weeks. We need to make sure we take the time to engage with the client, get to know them, for them to get to know us, and that the strategy is developing together as we do the discovery, as we do these sessions with them. It shouldn't be a surprise when the report is created, right? The report, more often than not, will sit in someone's bookcase and not, they'll do nothing with it. But overall, this is the framework and the methodology. So what are the pitfalls to avoid? And this is over 20 years of experience. Okay, I've done countless ones of these. Number one, when you start relying too much on the IT manager and they become the source of your information, you need to not do that, because they're looking at it from a very narrow angle. They're looking at it from a, how do I keep my kingdom intact? And a lot of times you'll not get the right information. They'll withhold information, but overall it's not strategically aligned. If you're doing an IT strategic plan for the organization, over reliance on IT managers is can be harmful. Not always, but something to keep an eye for. So your job should be to talk to the entire leadership and a select group of managers to understand what's really going on. How IT sees their operations is not always how the user or the business space sees it, right? They may have the best and the brightest tools, everything's checked off, things look great, we're cyber secure, and yet your users are using Excel sheets upon Excel sheets to do their daily work. Plus, they don't have any visibility into their customer care tickets. So those two things can be completely separated from each other. Scope creep, which is again something to look out for in any project, but especially becomes critical in IT strategic plans because it can be very easily, you can be asked to do things that are not in scope, right? And that can show up in very many different ways. And as a project manager, it's our job to make sure that we understand where the scope starts and ends, and if it is out of scope, how to deal with it. And we'll have another session on just that at some point. Generic recommendations are a pitfall. You need to be specific. Actions, costs, owners, timelines. We can't just go in and say, modernize your ERP. What does that mean? Why are you asking us to do that? What is it going to cost? Who should be responsible? What are our options? And the more we work in the ERP landscape, I think in IT strategic plan, that becomes our a very good weapon to use, right? We know the players, we know the market. We've done this with clients before. So based on what product the client has, we can give them some deep, insights into how they're using a product today that we've seen used better elsewhere. And that's our superpower. That's another reason why we get selected for IT strat plans, because ERP is more often than not a huge pain point for government clients. Political realities, budget cycles, and leadership. You need to make sure what's driving this. Yeah, they may tell you that, yeah, it's a new year, we're trying to plan for next year, blah, blah, blah. But keeping in mind what's going on, where did this new city manager come from? Why is the CIO still here? What's going on on the council and the commission? Political realities, you don't want to step on a landmine that you were not aware of. So that applies to every project. This applies to every project, right? Over reliance on IT, scope creep, generic work, ignoring political realities, that applies everywhere, but especially to an IT strat plan. And then you don't want to deliver a report that is not useful. And how do you not do that? It's by making sure that along the way, you're working so closely with your client sponsors that A, the report is not a surprise, and B, that they are completely bought into the point where they're distributing copies of it across the world. Look how great we did on our IT strategic plan. Comments, questions? Okay.
I do
I have
have
one
one. Yeah,
question,
we have a
sorry.
couple.
Yeah, go
So
ahead.
Sarah,
Go ahead, Clay.
okay, if you insist. Regarding actionable roadmaps, sometimes these roadmaps can be a few years long with specific actions that need to be taken over the course of a few years. So if our goal is to maintain a long-term relationship with the client, but our contract only lasts for 12 to 16 weeks, how do we bridge that gap? Have we ever done it before?
Most contracts are at least a year long. When a government client's gone through this pain of putting an RFP out, selection, taking it to council, they're going to do it for more than a year. They're going to do it at least for a year, right? So the work may be 12 to 16 weeks, but our contract typically ends the next year. So therein is the opportunity to expand into more work as you finish this work or while you're doing this work. And if it is after the contract, it really is really not on us to define that, right? The client, if convinced that they need us to do this work, will find the money, they'll find the contracting uh, to keep it going.
I think I get it. So if our work lasts 16 weeks, but there's something that could be done within this year that they're contracting us, then we could maybe propose that we can help them with some of the groundwork for the rest of
Yes.
the year.
Yep.
Okay.
100%. And they have the power to go extend the contract, right?
Right. The
Um,
length of it or the budget of it.
yes. A lot of time it comes down to two things. One is how good is your work? How well do you have the client convinced that they cannot do any of this without you? And two, the purchasing people on the client side, how by the book are they, or how much wiggle room do you have in there? Again, these are their decisions. What's in our control is doing great work and making sure we have built a long-term relationship so that it's inevitable that when the next thing comes or when they'll start looking through the recommendations list, they're like, well, yeah, we need to do this. And of course, we'll do it with Avero as our ongoing PM or consultant.
That really that hammers home the importance of an ITSP. It's not just an ITSP. ITSPs are like your intro to a potential new client that could last for years.
Yeah. And for years, I just gave you examples, right? Blount County's, our relationship lasted 10 years, starting from an ITSP. And not just that relationship, that allowed us to have a great reference next town, the next town over. And that's why we are all here, really, from an ITSP. Sarah, you had a question.
Yeah, and it's kind of stepping off one of my prior questions about kind of the events that seem to kick these requests off. And I was just wondering from a business development standpoint, if we are like, how are we tracking like turnover in leadership, or if there's, a government that's ended up in the news because of some failed, ERP implementation, like, are we identifying those opportunities in some way and then reaching out to try to target those governments and see if we can be of help?
Yes and no. Like we've just spun up a position, RevOps, that works under Manish in Hyderabad, that is doing just that. So we subscribe to a system called GovSpend, which everyone should have access to, and Manish's people keep an eye on, and of course Larry and Megan do it too, keeping an eye on the keywords. They get these reports every day that then we dig into, and if you go into HubSpot, there's a list called BD 250 that has enriched data that we're reaching out to, right? So every time someone says in a council meeting, I can't believe we're running a crappy ERP system, it tells us that. We then track it, and it's being used in our marketing and will be in a more strategic fashion going forward. But yes, great question. If Sarah, in your neighborhood, you've got Rochester schools is still struggling with some stuff, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that was all over the news.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but great question. Thank you. Okay, so deliverables. We've all seen our ITSP deliverables. If you haven't, go on the drive, find some really good ones out there. So essentially what it is an assessment of what they have today, justification for why they need to spend more money or change or modernize otherwise, a visual roadmap, prioritization matrix, like what comes before what. And a lot of times these clients will have us come present this to city council to make the case for a multi-year, multi-million-dollar project, which is a critical phase in them approving the project, the client's getting the money to do it, and therefore for us to keep engaged with the client. So Clay brought this up as an introduction. I would call it a gold mine, right? Now we switch from how do we deliver this to the business end of this. It's a gateway to follow-on work. And a lot of times you may start with an ERP project, but their ERP clients are also very ripe for ITSP because you've seen this. Yeah, they're buying Workday, they're buying Oracle, but the rest of their IT organization and the rest of their systems are a mess. So when we do ITSPs, typically what we'll find is ERP projects. And a lot of our work, like Blount County, ITSP, biggest project was ERP. City of Maryville, biggest project was ERP. Uh, I can go on and on and on, right? And it doesn't always happen right away. Like Union County, we did an ITSP for them in 2020. They just released an RFP for ERP consulting. Before it came out, I got a call from their executive saying, "Hey, this is coming out. We'd love for you to respond." Great. So ITSPs, if you're doing it right, if you're being vigilant, if you're selling it right, it's going to lead to more work, not just ERP, but other stuff, right? But ERP tends to be the most important, the longest pole in the tent. And going forward, you're going to see we need to look for AI and automation opportunities, right? There's a lot of noise in the market about AI. Not everybody understands it. Our clients for sure don't, but they're being sold to by companies that, 2 days ago were website marketing companies. Now they're AI solution companies. What we have going for us is deep expertise and understanding of the business of government. Now you layer that on top with AI and automation opportunities. Our ITSPs need to include those opportunities for our clients. We should be constantly looking for what is it that they can do with AI, or how do they even get started. We're offering AI maturity models. We're offering AI assessments to our clients. That needs to be, and I think it is being rolled into our newer ITSP proposals. Identifying workflows for automation, enterprise AI strategy, micro SaaS solutions, and really this work can position us as their AI forward strategic partner for the future. Examples I've already given you, like I said, Blount County, Tennessee, first client, ITSP led to a 4-year IT modernization program that included ERP, systems for their animal center, document management, GIS, network overhauls, website redesign. It was a massive project. All it took was a great strategic plan that they loved, and it was inevitable. It was funny when I presented the report to the mayor. He loved it. He says, "All right, so who's going to do all this work?" I said, "Well, we can find you people that can manage this whole thing for you." And he looks at me again and says, "AV, who is going to do all this work?" I'm like, okay, we'll do it. It was a lot of fun, challenging, but that's again the power of doing these projects right. Same thing with City of Maryville, Tennessee, Union County. We're about to see some more work from them. Did good work for Pennsylvania and Macedonia. Nothing came of it, but that was more political than anything else that we did or did not do. The other great example is City of Piqua. Paul Oberdorfer has been a client since, I want to say, 2014. 2012, long time ago, before I had even started Avero. And that's a long-term relationship that, like I said, any new city he goes to will do an ITSP and ERP work for them. So great examples of how great work, long-term relationship building is the key in any consulting business for longevity. So what are the key takeaways I want to leave you with? ITSP is not something that we used to do or maybe do, or it's a baseline offer, right? That leads to a lot more work. So we need to be good at this, and we need to not be afraid of the words IT in there, because nobody expects us to be network experts or server experts or software development experts. They expect us to understand the big picture and how these pieces fit into your strategy. Vendor neutrality is important. Our public sector focus is a really good key asset of ours. And then avoiding pitfalls, like really think about in any project, who is your one point of failure? Do you really have only one point of failure? And that is a danger. It could be IT, it could be finance, it could be HR. If that is one person leading your project as a sponsor, you need to expand your reach and your influence within the organization. And again, I can't say it enough, ITSPs open the door for other work. A lot of our current work has come from ITSPs. We need to constantly be looking for opportunities to sell IT strategic plans to our client that may be ERP clients right now, HRIS clients. They need this to truly take advantage of whatever projects they're running on right now. And then AI, huge opportunity again. Keep your eyes out for how we can help our clients, if not automate and optimize, at least to understand what it means to their world. Last 2 weeks I've spent at 2 conferences. It's become abundantly clear our clients do not understand what's going on. And I think that's indicative of the general population. It's not just our clients. It's a very fast-moving space, and it's been taken advantage by highly funded vendors that are just claiming to be AI vendors. So that is my TED Talk, and let's open it up for questions and discussions, if any.
It's Kim. I just have a quick question. Do we have any
Kim.
existing IT SP projects in process? Any in the pipeline? Any on the horizon?
Yeah, right now we're working, and someone jump in and correct me if I'm wrong, but we're wrapping up Fair Oaks, Texas. We just presented last week to city of East Hartford, Connecticut. And then I don't know of any others in the pipeline at this point.
The city of San Carlo. No, that was utility
That was
billing. I'm
ERP.
sorry. Yep. That was the only one. East Hartford.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Kim.
What do we tend to charge for these?
It depends on the client. Like for Fair Oaks, which is I don't know, 300 employees, David, correct me? 3 to 5. I think we charge them like $65K.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. And then if it's, it's a larger number of employees typically means larger operations. Depends on whether they have police, fire, or it's just a baseline city. If they have utilities, it's slightly more. So it really depends. We've charged as much as 150 to 200 for some accounts, bigger. So that's generally the range. We've also undercharged, right? We were shortlisted for the state of West Virginia a couple of years ago, and our bid was, I think, 250K. The winning bid was 2.5 million. We didn't win it.
On the AI side of things, there seems to be so much fear, particularly in local governments, but also just kind of in the general population about there's so much unknown and we're all going to be replaced by AI and things. How do we combat that? I feel like here at Avero, everybody embraces it, right? But that's because that's what we do here,
Yeah.
is embrace technology. But even I know just like having conversations with friends and family, they're like, aren't you scared about this? And oh, you actually use AI stuff. And it seems like it's this crazy foreign idea to people when
Yeah.
it can add so much value and help you to work smarter, not harder. And it's like, how do we get that messaging out there and how do we break through that kind of fear and obstacle, particularly with government?
So there's two things going on, right? There's heavy marketing. Like anytime you see a Microsoft ad for Copilot, it's gonna change your life. Reality is it doesn't work. So people are seeing that here's the promise, but we're doing a pilot project here, like the Port of Portland's doing, other clients are doing. Copilot is probably the worst product in the AI ecosystem. It doesn't work. The reason they use it is because it's available free through their Microsoft subscriptions. So that leads them to think it's not working, but at the same time, the fear mongering in the market is about us losing our jobs and AI taking over. That's what the fear is. It's the uncertainty, right? And my response when I spoke at a conference 2 weeks ago, I told them, I mean, there's no reason to panic because it's not going to do all of these things right now. And where our clients sit is they're in this sweet spot where they're trying and experimenting on a few things, but they're not making any major leaps. The clients or public organizations that are making those leaps and have made them in the last 2 years on buying a specific AI-based product most of them have had a failure rate there. I mean, it hasn't worked. So how do you communicate with the clients? I would just use these words. I mean, that is all fear-mongering and it's all marketing. Yes, eventually it is going to reshape our workforce, but I wouldn't trust it to do all the work that all of us do together, right? That's not it. But I think the flip side of it too is telling people to use it. There's several free and cheap tools out there that you can use and get up to speed, because you're right, it can add a lot of value without burning the world down.
Thanks, AB.
I have so much I could say right now, but it's
Go
AV's
ahead.
talk.
No, chime in.
People are already probably using it, and that's probably what scares people in government too. Managers, supervisors, directors, they're trying to catch up with what people are already using. And I don't think it's ever a good idea to blanket ban the use of AI because they're going to do it anyway, but they're just going to do it behind your back, and that's probably more risky than having some sort of guidance. So something we can offer, maybe as a result of one of these IT strategic plans, is governance. A structure to put together and make decisions around policies related to technologies like AI.
Yeah, and that's something we're going to do, Clay. It's evident to me that is everyone's chasing the product and nobody's talking about like this. Last week I went to San Jose for the Gov AI conference. It was pay to play. You paid $35,000 to the organizations. You get to speak in front of the audience for 30 minutes. We paid $4,000 for me to go, just go. So the amount of noise being made by product companies, and no one's talking about these things like strategy, governance, uh, making sure data is clean. No one talked about enterprise systems last week. Not one person. Like I know you have a crappy 20-year-old Tyler implementation, and here you are trying to buy AI. Like, how do you think those things correlate? You still need to do the heavy lifting on the stuff that is not so exciting. And that's where we are. So all of that leads to the fear that you're talking about, Sarah.
Gotta implement it strategically. Just like part of the deliverables is the prioritization matrix, right? If you have a
Yeah.
20-year-old Tyler system, your brand new spanking AI product that you bought for $30,000 a year that does like one thing may not even be able to access the data inside the Tyler system because it hasn't got the capability to read that database. So we're the kind of people who can know that and warn people of those actual risks to their money. I think being knowledgeable about AI and speaking intelligently about it and offering strategic guidance is the best thing we can do for people who are afraid.
Yeah, and that needs to be part of the ITSP scope, right? Because it applies to the whole organization. It is strategic. It's not just one and done. Anybody else? I want to hear one thought or question from the boardroom, or we all stay here all day.
I thought that was Billy trying to back away from her boardroom background.
Billy's doing
I'll
another
share-
meeting.
I'll share
boardroom.
thoughts.
Hey, David, how did the ITSP for Shenandoah go when we asked those AI questions?
Shenandoah, I think half of them said that they're just waiting for AI to take over the world. I think it was a real Terminator scenario, if I'm remembering correctly. Too bad Patrick's not. Now, I'll share a thought, definitely over the conversation. Obviously, Fair Oaks Ranch, some of you all know, some of the struggles that, kind of going through with that project. The biggest thing is going to be making sure that you have that leadership buy-in. Like AV said, it cannot be understated. Do not solely rely on the IT manager, because the IT manager was in love with the assessment. It got to city manager and they're like, this isn't at all what I asked for. So that cannot be understated, and that's not only for ITSPs, that's for ERP projects, that's for everything. You want to make sure that you have buy-in all the way from the top, or else, things can go a little bit rough.
I agree. Okay. I'm going to share a white paper I put out recently on all of this, specifically on the AI and trust. Take a look at that. I'm putting it out in the chat box. And let me know what you think. It's on the Zoom chat box.
I have a
Awesome.
question.
Yeah, Irene.
Yeah, sorry. So speaking about like cybersecurity risk and stuff, so I was just like curious to know if we've ever came across a client who was adamant to like use cloud-based ERP solutions and wanted on-premise solutions, and whether we have the capacity or we're prepared to support such clients. Yeah, that's my question.
Yes, and even if they wanted to, no major vendor is going to offer that anymore, which is what, I mean, 4 or 5 years ago, they used to have an option, and then at that time, we would convince the client or show them the math on how this plays out in terms of economics, and it doesn't work well. And over the last 5 years, what's happened is most major vendors do not offer on-prem solutions. So it's an option that's being taken away. Unless they want to build something of their own, then they're really going backwards. Anyone else want to chime in on that? Brian, what you've got experience in that space?
Yeah, so I mean, I've seen more in like the private sector manufacturing operations where you'll see kind of the mid-tier vendors still have some operations. A lot of the manufacturing ones, they'll do on-premise solutions still, and they're offering those. But yeah, it's become, and even it's now been a year since I've been in that space, and it was definitely getting less and less. But you're still seeing some of the ones who haven't matured the product in the cloud level as much as well, who still offer a lot of capability in their on-premise solutions. But
Yeah.
yeah.
I will say in a prior life, in a previous job, I did have a client that was, I guess we would say like a very high security. Some of it was an energy company, and they had like nuclear energy stored in certain places that the location of those could have been derived by different things in the system, and they demanded on-prem contractually, but it cost a fortune. It was very, very, very expensive. But that particular client demanded it, and that cost was passed along to them.
Yeah, I wonder how they're doing.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, I'm just curious. I'm not going to trying
Yeah.
to go tell you to sell something to them.
No.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen most on-prem clients move away from that, but it also takes some investment, right? Because you need to have your infrastructure ready, secure. You need to have the right kind of internet bandwidth to be able to get to the cloud. So if you don't have that in place, you can't really take advantage of cloud and SaaS.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Irene. Anything else? Last minute. All right. Well, I hope this was helpful and useful, and we will do it again. Thank you for joining today. Happy
Thanks,
Friday.
Avi.
Enjoy your weekend.
Thanks, Avi.
Have a nice weekend.
Bye.
Everybody.